So if you were to ask me, Lord of the Rings is possibly one of the most successful film trilogies of all time. But now we have a prequel television series that is on Amazon Prime. Yes, sign me up. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Amazon Prime TV series review. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like the video, please give me that thumbs up and consider subscribing. So I haven't seen the whole series. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. So of course, I'm only going to talk about that. And just like all of my other reviews, this one is going to contain non-spoilers. Now, this is something that I was really looking forward to. I had no idea they was coming out with this until the trailers came out earlier this year. You know, sometimes, of course, movie and television news does come out before the trailer drops. But for me, it was a surprise. And when I first saw the trailer, I was hooked. I was like, okay, let's do this. I was sold. I was ready to go. Now, I am a fan of the previous films, and I do have those right here. I have this extended edition of The Hobbit on 3D. This is The Desolation of Smaug. I believe this is the second one in that franchise. And I also have on Blu-ray 3D The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. And I have not seen these in quite some time. But also, the crown jewel is the Lord of the Rings Golden Extended Edition. Have all those right there on Blu-ray. I'm very proud of this. The only one I don't have in the collection is the Battle of the Five Armies, I think is the other Hobbit movie. I did love the Lord of the Rings, but the Hobbit not so much. I mean, I do remember pretty much, well, I won't say pretty much everything with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but the Hobbit is forgettable to me. I think I've only seen them in theaters one time, and then when I got these or not DVDs, but Blu-rays, I watched them once and then never went back and revisited them. My only thing with the Hobbit that concerned me, that bothered me was, I mean, of course, all of this has CGI in it, like all of them, but in the Hobbit trilogy, it was just so blatantly obvious. It looked like a computer game, and I just wasn't down with that, especially when we came from the original trilogy in the early 2000s. Everything looks so freaking practical. So as far as expectations are concerned, I love the original trilogy, and the Hobbit trilogy I was so-so. But when I found out that Amazon Prime was spending so much money on this production, $1 billion, it is the most expensive television show in history, I was expecting a lot and was quite scared at the same time. I mean, I wanted it to be good, but you know, my heart wasn't going to be broken either. Now, what's interesting is this is being directed by Patrick McKay and also John D. Payne. And I'm looking at both of them right now on IMDb, and you notice that they do not have a picture up. And if we scroll down and look at their filmography, this is like literally the first thing that they've done. And that is very surprising to me. I mean, I don't know what they was able to pitch the studio to convince them to work on this right here, but you know, you have a $1 billion production. Me personally, I'm going to want somebody with experience, but that just shows all that I know. And also, there is some backlash with the casting. You know, there are some diehard fans that are out there upset that this is a multicultural cast, and we have some black and brown characters as far as hobbits and dwarves and elves, and I'm going to address that as well. But my expectations going into this was very high. But before I get into all the nitty-gritty, before I get into all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this series is all about. This epic drama is set thousands of years before the events of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and will take viewers back to an era in which great powers were forged, kingdom rose to glory and fell to ruin, unlikely heroes were tested, hope hung by the finest of threads, and the greatest villain that ever flowed from Tolkien's pen threatened to cover all the world in darkness. Beginning in a time of relative peace, the series follows an ensemble cast of characters both familiar and new as they confront the long-feared reemergence of evil to Middle-earth. From the darkest depths of the Misty Mountains to the majestic forests of the elf capital of Lindon to the breathtaking island kingdom of Numenor to the furthest reaches of the map These kingdom and characters will carve out legacies that live on after they are gone. Now, I have to say, that's a pretty good synopsis to sum it all up, if you ask me. So I'm not going to waste any time, guys. I'm just going to get straight to it. I freaking love these first 2 episodes. I thought it was damn near perfect. I really don't have any complaints whatsoever. And let me just start off with the budget. I had a reaction of me seeing this the other day, my initial reaction, and I will say that the budget used from this, the $1 billion that they spent on the production, was well spent. This is one of the most beautiful pieces of art that I've ever seen in my entire life. Every dollar, every penny was put on the screen, and it shows bright, bold, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, this is a visual masterpiece. From that alone, this series does get a perfect 10 out of 10 to me. It is just a wonderful sight to see. I mean, you're going to love it. There are so many bright colors. The cinematography is perfect. And when you get to look at this beautiful cinematic masterpiece, it is in multiple settings, in the daytime and at night, and you're able to make out everything perfectly without any type of hesitation or struggle. The times when it's daytime, you get that in the water, at sea, underwater, on land, up in the sky, in the mountains, in the caverns, in the caves, in the mines, all over the place. You're going to get some type of breathtaking visuals to satisfy all of your senses. But as I was just going over the synopsis, it said that you're going to get both characters familiar and new. Not only new characters are you going to get, but also new locations. I just briefly spoke on the ocean, the coastal line, the waterfront, the sea. That was one of the most impressive things to me, because I do not remember in The Hobbit or in the Lord of the Rings trilogy them spending a lot of time in large bodies of water. And that was one of the best things, because it did look familiar, but it also looked brand new, like something I've never seen before in this trilogy, in these set of films. And it was breathtaking. And there are big creatures, big fish that will kill you, that will eat you. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. The entire scale and scope of these first 2 episodes was magnificent. As it's transitioning over to a new scene and the camera is panning over a mountaintop, and then it just reveals itself in a large, wide shot showing the elf town of Linden and how big and beautiful it is. It is nothing short of breathtaking, and I was eating it all in. And of course, the different races and species of life is very distinguishable. I mean, it's not hard to tell the difference between a dwarf, man, and elves or orcs. But not only are they distinguishable by their looks, but their land, where they come from, and their culture as well. All of these species of life have a good reason to be proud of their culture and where they come from. Even though it is vast and it is different, it's rich with each of them, and I loved it. The elves are doing their thing, man is doing their thing, the dwarfs are doing their thing, and also the hobbits as well. And let's just focus on the hobbits for a second. I love the little hobbits in this, and when I was looking up a few things, it was brought to my attention that there are different types of hobbits. These are the Harfoots, and that is new to me. If they were in the Hobbit trilogy or the Lord of the Rings, I am not aware. I do not remember, but I love these little hobbits. I mean, there was just so much detail given to their land and culture and where they come from to show how proud they should be too. And I appreciate everything that the writers were able to give us when it comes to these Harfoot hobbits as well. They was cute, they was cuddly, but they have their own unique way of surviving, and it works for them. And I love that too. And I'm not gonna lie, when the series first started off, I was kind of like, okay, what's the point of all this? I mean, I don't want another rehash story of like, once upon a time there was peace and there was evil and came and wanted to wreak shop on everybody. Yes, we did get that, but what saved it for me and just knocked it out of the park was the motivation of the characters, some of the main characters, some of the elves, and that goes to Elrond and Galadriel. Now, if you don't remember those names, and I'm pretty sure you do, those are the characters that Hugo Weaving and Cate Blanchett fulfilled in the first Lord of the Rings trilogy. Elrond now is being played by Robert Aramayo, and Galadriel is being played by Morphy Clark. I am not too familiar with these two performers right here, but they did a great job. And I gotta say, I love Galadriel in this. I mean, she did a fantastic job. Not only did we get to see her in a younger version of herself from the early Lord of the Rings trilogy. Seeing her now, she's a completely different person. In the Lord of the Rings trilogy, she was wise and just has so much wisdom and experience. And she still does now, but she's just much younger and she's aspiring to do a lot of things. And I just respect her character wholeheartedly because she has to make very difficult decisions. And I like the fork in the road and the conflict that she has to figure out in her own head and her own heart. And I'm still trying to decide myself, is she making these decisions for the better good of man? Or is she making these decisions for selfish reasons because she doesn't want to feel guilty and things eat away at her heart? I'm still on the fence right now, but as I'm thinking about it, it does get me excited to see what more this series does have to offer as far as her character is concerned. And this is not a spoiler. This was revealed in trailers and also in the marketing and interviews that Amazon Prime put out for this series, but I'm really excited to see the emergence of evil and how that comes about because it can come from nowhere. And right now, this is a guessing game mystery. Not only that, it is an adventure. I mean, we are all the way in the clouds, like I said before, in the ocean, and we're also in these mountains, these mines, and these deep caverns. And I love how it shifts. You're getting all of it here. You're getting big open and tight spaces, and I'm loving it, loving it, loving it. And just seeing what some of these characters have to go through in life and what they value is important. And I'm having so much fun learning it at all and how these things are important to these group of people, but it means nothing to these group of people over here. And this is more important as well. And also the alliances and broken relationships that are being molded and also broken apart. It's just all so much to take in, and I'm here for it all. Now, there's barely any action in these first 2 episodes, but that is not a knock. It's not even needed. I wasn't saying to myself, okay, where's the action? Where's the sword throwing and all this? I mean, I'm kind of bored right now. No, none of that. The performances were top notch. The costumes were dope as hell. I mean, my goodness gracious, these are some of the best costumes and set designs that I've seen. Just some of the molding that they put on the doors and the design and the colors, it just pops. It's like amazing. Like, it seriously shows how much money they put into this. I mean, I even get excited when scenes are transitioning and they show a map like this is Linden or this is the Southlands and it's transitioning over to some large body of water. That's exciting too. And it's crazy. You have all these different species of life bouncing off of each other. Some, their years of living only last a few hundred years while others a few thousand. And so of course, people are going to prioritize certain things over than others, and that can also cause conflict, which is exciting. And also, let's address the race issue that some people are having a problem with. There is a black hobbit, a black dwarf, and a black elf. The black elf is by the name of Ismael Cruz Cordova, and the black dwarf is Sophia Normvit. I thought they did a great job. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh my God, we got black people in Lord of the Rings now? That's unexpected. Where was they at before? Now, I did a reaction on my channel for these first 2 episodes. There was no spoilers. And man, they are upset in the comment section. Like, oh my God, how would you feel if they just had white people in Wakanda and had white Wakandas and if Black Panther was a white man and da 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 da. And I'm just like, okay, I mean, that will go against historical context. And they was like, your logic is off, Brandon. You see, that's the same thing here. They're going against logical context and story. Why can't we have our own stories? And, you know, woke is a cult. Somebody put in my comment section that woke is being a cult. Now, I will say this, before I give my opinion on this, I will say this. Amazon Prime Video, they did address this with Vanity Fair, and I want to go ahead and read that for you now, just kind of what they had to say if all these ads would just stop popping up. But my God. Lord of the Rings of Power addresses diversity complaints. It only felt natural to us to have an adaptation of Author J.R.R. Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like, E.P. Lindsley Weber explained. Tolkien is for everyone. His stories are about his fictional races doing their best work when they leave the isolation of their own cultures and come together. Tolkien scholar Maria Rios Maldonado didn't mince words with her pushing back on critics rhetorically asking, who are all these people that feel so threatened or disgusted by the idea that an elf is black or Latino or Asian? Examples of the casting that some fans have taken issue with include Ismael Cruz Cordova as Elf Arinder, the first person of color to play a Tolkien elf on screen, and Sophia Nomvit, a dwarven princess Disa, the franchise's first female dwarf, and Nomvit is the first black woman to portray a Lord of the Rings elf, or dwarf, excuse me. This is a title we imagine could live on the spine of a book to Tolkien's other classics. The Rings of Power unites all major stories of Middle-earth's Second Age, The Forging of the Rings, and the Dark Lord Sauron, the epic tale of Numenor, and the last alliance in the Elves and Man. And I don't want to get too off topic, but if I go to the trivia section here in IMDb, I kind of wanted to show you this as well. But of course, it talks about right here the $1 billion. But it says that will not be a direct adaptation of the books, but will instead introduce new stories that are set before the books and the movies. While the Tolkien estate made demands that the series cannot change anything that is written out of the age in which it takes place, the show has all the creative freedom it wants. So in other words, Amazon is going to be making stuff up and doing whatever they want to do. And it goes on to say, after the first photos and plot details of the show were revealed, there was a strong backlash from fans of the series, criticizing its multicultural cast and the creative freedom taken by the writers. Prime Video and Amazon Studios expressed their decision of these anonymous online critics in Vanity Fair. In response, when the first teaser trailer was released, disgruntled fans commented by repeating the same phrase in many languages: "Evil cannot create anything new. It can only distort and destroy what was invented or created by the forces of good," a paraphrase from the Lord of the Rings novel. And so, guys, there you go, just on the opinion of some of the fans that are upset that black and brown people and Asian people are in their Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, I'll go ahead and give my opinion on that. When I first saw the trailer for this, like I said, I was surprised, like, oh my God, we got a black dwarf and black elves and all that. That's crazy. You know, hey, I'm here for it. I like seeing people that look like me in my television and entertainment. However, I'm being honest, I did say to myself, like, how does this make sense? Like, how there are black people and brown people in a trilogy, I mean, in a prequel, but they wasn't in The Hobbit and they wasn't in The Lord of the Rings, that doesn't make sense that they all just kind of die off. And that would be a horrible plot point. Like, you know, just let's kill all the black people. That just wouldn't make sense to me. You know, so maybe they will explain it in some way, shape or form. I don't know, because to my understanding, this Rings of Power prequel is going to at least last 5 seasons. But at the same time, I'm just being honest. I don't understand how you can not have black and brown people in the Hobbit trilogy and in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but in the prequel, they're there, but they wasn't there in the future. Like, what happened to them? Like, I don't know, that all the black people get together and be like, you know, we tired of all y'all fighting each other. We gonna carve out our own corner of the earth over here and kick it, and y'all can box and fight it out in the Hobbit trilogy and the Lord of the Rings. We over here chilling. I doubt that's the way that would go. And so, I mean, you know, I'm just saying that doesn't make any sense to me as a black man that likes seeing, you know, people that look like me in the series. Now, I'm not like entrenched in it like these people that are causing backlash online. And I'll say this, me personally, I don't like race bending or race swapping just for diversity's sake. Keep it consistent, okay? Like, I mean, people are talking about in the MCU if Magneto should be black and Patrick Stewart, the Professor X, should be black. I mean, I'm not gonna cry if they are black, but for me, keep it consistent. Only time you don't need to change race is when it actually will go against the actual context and culture of said character. Like, it doesn't make sense for you to make Black Panther white. It doesn't make sense for you to, I'm trying to think of some other characters right now off the top of my head, but just that, for example, it wouldn't make, that would just go against logic. And I'll put that in one of my comment sections, my comment section for the video, and people, haha, Brandon, your logic is off, because that's the same thing we're saying, because elf means white people. And I've never, look, maybe I've been living under a rock my whole life, but I've never heard that before, that elf relates to white people. I don't know. And hey, you tell me. But even though Wakanda is fiction, the nation itself, like a black African, there's not a lot of white only nations in Africa, you know? And so even going back to this, people are complaining about, you know, black elves and black dwarves and stuff. Look, I'll do my research to see if there is any validity to these people complaints, because I just stopped responding in my reaction video. Like, I'll ask 1 or 2 questions and they're just typing a whole novel, a whole book of frustration. And some people they come back, I'm so sorry, my tone was off, and I'm not even reading them anymore. I'm just like, okay, I would engage in the comment section with you, but your energy is horrible and I'm gonna protect my peace and all that. But guys, I love this series, okay? I'm really excited where it's gonna go. It is a lot of fun, and we haven't even got that much action, just really none at all. But I'm excited to see where all these elves come from, these dwarves, these orcs, these hobbits, these hardfoots, man, all of that. I mean, I'm getting stuff that I'm familiar with and a bunch of new stuff too, and I'm here for it. So if I had to rate the Ring of Power, I can't even say that right. If I had to rate the Lord of the Rings, the Ring of Power, out of a 1 out of 10, oh, man. Only other 10 I gave this year was Top Gun Maverick. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 10 too. A perfect 10 out of 10. I have no complaints at all. 0 complaints. 0 complaints, 0 complaints, 0 complaints. So guys, that is just my opinion, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you subscribe, you're gonna get movie reviews, spoiler movie reviews, series reviews, a weekly movie news roundup show, interviews, and also me covering my favorite TV shows each week. But guys, again, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.